Before the white moon learned to smile upon our land, before the roads became dusted with footprints of many travelers, there was a small village hidden between the tall palm trees and the singing rivers. The name of that village was Arowa, a place where every heart had a song, and every song had a drum. In Arowa, the people did not speak with only their mouths. No. They spoke with drums. When the sun rose, the drums spoke to greet it. When the moon came out to dance, the drums told stories. And when someone was born or gone to rest, the drums carried the news through the wind. The people would say, if you listen well, even the trees dance to the drum. Now, in that village lived the greatest drummer of all, Baba Olojo, an old man with grey hair like cotton and hands that spoke more than his tongue. His drum was not just any drum. It was the king drum, called Oba. They said it was carved from the heart of a fallen iroko tree that had once been struck by lightning, and that a spirit lived inside it. Baba Olojo never played Oba carelessly. He said, a drum has a spirit, and if you beat it with anger or lies, it will refuse to speak. And truly, Oba was no ordinary drum. When it sounded, dum, 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 even the wind stopped to listen. Birds on high trees turned their heads. Children forgot their quarrels. Mothers smiled. Fathers lifted their heads proudly. The whole village glowed when Oba spoke. Every moon festival, the people of Arowa gathered in the big square. Fires burned bright. The air smelled of roasted yam and palm oil. The elders sat in a circle, the children's eyes wide with wonder. And then, when Baba Olojo began to play, the earth itself seemed to wake up. It was at one of these moon festivals that we first meet Ireti, a small girl with bright eyes and laughter that danced like light. She was only 12 years old, but her heart was full of music. She loved the drum more than food, more than sleep. Whenever Baba Olojo played, she was the first to dance, her feet light as air, her body flowing like the river after rain. People would say, "Oh, look at Ireti. Even the drum loves her." And Baba Olojo would smile and say, "Yes, because she listens." The drum speaks to those who listen with the heart. One day, after the festival, Ireti went to see Baba Olojo in his small hut by the river. The hut smelled of wood, herbs, and oil, the smell of life and memory. "Baba," she said softly, "teach me to talk to the drum." The old man looked at her for a long time, his eyes shining like the stars above. "My child," he said, "the drum is not just sound. It is breath, spirit, and heart. To talk to it, you must first learn to be quiet." He gave her a small drum, not as grand as Oba, but strong and warm. He told her to carry it home and listen to it each night. "Don't play it too much," he warned, "just listen. The drum will speak when you are ready." And so Ireti did. Every evening, after helping her mother cook and wash, she would sit under the mango tree, holding her little drum close to her chest. Sometimes she thought she could hear it hum softly, like a heartbeat. Dum, dum, dum. It made her smile. "I hear you," she would whisper. Weeks passed. The drums of Arowa continued to sing, for weddings, for harvest, for the joy of life. But one season, when the rains should have come, they did not. The sky grew dry and tired. The river shrunk like a frightened snake. The leaves turned brown. The people worried. The elders met and said, "We must call the drums. They will speak to the rain spirits." And so Baba Olojo brought out Oba, the king drum. He beat it slowly, carefully, with love. Dum, dum, dum. The sound rolled through the hills, calling to the clouds, begging them to open. Soon, a soft wind blew, and the first drops of rain fell. The people danced and sang. Arowa was alive again. In all that joy, Ireti danced harder than anyone. She twirled and spun until her mother laughed. But the next morning, she woke with a cough. Her chest felt heavy. Her body was weak. Her mother gave her herbs, but the sickness did not go. Each day, she grew thinner, quieter. Even the drum she loved so much became silent beside her bed. One night, as the moon rose pale and sad, Ireti whispered, "Mama, can you hear the drum?" Her mother listened. There was only silence. "No, my child," she said softly. Ireti smiled faintly. "I can," she whispered, "but it sounds far, far away." Before the cock crowed, Ireti stopped breathing. The village fell into sorrow. Baba Olojo sat by his fire and said nothing for a long time. He felt the wind pass by and thought he heard the faint sound of a drum, soft as a sigh. The next morning, they buried Ireti beneath the great iroko tree by the river. They wrapped her in her favorite blue cloth, placed beads around her neck, and sang songs to guide her spirit. Baba Olojo played one soft beat on oba, just one. Dum. Then he covered the drum with cloth. He said, "Let the drum sleep with her." From that day, the village became quiet. No drums. No dancing. Only the sound of the wind and the river's whisper. Even the sun seemed dimmer, and the nights colder. But sometimes, when the moon rose high, the children said they could hear something strange coming from the forest. It was a heartbeat. Dum, dum, dum. They would run to their mothers, frightened, but the mothers only shook their heads and said, "It is just the wind." But Baba Olojo knew better. He would look toward the iroko tree and whisper, "The drum is not silent. It is waiting." The elders used to say, "A good name brings light to the heart." And it was true for the girl called Ireti, whose name meant hope. Even when the sun hid behind the clouds, her laughter made it shine again. In the days after the burial, the village of Arowa became a quiet shadow of itself. The laughter of children no longer danced through the air. The women at the stream spoke in whispers, and the men moved like tired spirits. Even the birds that once sang at dawn seemed to have lost their song. And most silent of all was Oba, the king drum. The drum sat in Baba Olojo's hut, covered in white cloth. Its once bright carvings had grown dull, its leather skin dry from lack of touch. Baba Olojo had not played a single note since the day they buried Ireti. The old man spent his nights by the fire, staring into the flames, his heart heavy with both love and grief. Every evening, he would reach for the drum, lift the cloth, and whisper, "I hear you breathing, old friend, but I cannot wake you yet." Then he would place the cloth back and sigh, "She should be here to dance." One night, as he sat alone, the sound of rain began to fall softly on the roof. Baba Olojo smiled faintly. It had been weeks since the rain came. He closed his eyes and listened to the drops, but soon he began to hear something different. Between the sound of falling rain, he heard a low beat, faint, but steady. Dum, dum, dum. He opened his eyes quickly and looked around. The drum sat quiet, untouched. Yet, the sound was still there, coming from somewhere deep, perhaps from the forest, or maybe from the earth itself. He leaned closer to Oba and whispered, "Are you calling her?" The drum gave no answer. The next morning, Baba Olojo went to the river. The air smelled of wet soil, and mist floated above the water like smoke. He sat on a rock and spoke softly to the flowing stream. "Spirits of the river, tell me, why does the drum cry at night?" The river only murmured in reply, its voice soft but endless. He closed his eyes and remembered Ireti, her laughter, her dancing, the way she clapped her hands and shouted, "Again, Baba. Play again." A tear rolled down his cheek. He whispered, "Oh, my little echo, where are you now?" As he sat there, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Mama Aduk. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice was calm. "Baba," she said quietly, "I have been hearing it too. The drum. It plays when the moon rises. But no one touches it." Baba Olojo nodded slowly. "Yes, the drum is lonely," he said. "It is calling for her." Mama Aduk's lips trembled. Then what do we do? He looked toward the forest, where the great iroko tree stood tall. We wait, he said. The earth is listening. That night, the sky was clear. The moon was full and golden, bathing the village in soft light. Baba Olojo could not sleep. He sat beside Oba once again, his fingers hovering over the drum's skin. If I play, he whispered, will you answer me, my little dancer? His heart trembled, but he lifted the sticks and struck one soft note. Dum. The sound rolled gently through the night air, deep and low. He struck again. Dum, dum. Then, something extraordinary happened. The wind blew through his open window, swirling around him. The fire flickered, and he felt warmth on his skin, the same warmth he felt when Ireti danced near him. He closed his eyes. Is it you? He whispered. In that moment, far away under the earth, something shifted. The soil around Ireti's resting place trembled. Her fingers, pale and still for so long, twitched slightly. And then came the third beat. Dum, dum, dum. Her lips moved. Air filled her chest. A soft sound escaped her throat, no louder than a sigh. The drum's heartbeat reached her, calling her name in rhythm. Beneath the ground, in the quiet of the deep earth, Ireti's spirit stirred. Back in the hut, Baba Olojo felt the floor beneath him vibrate. He stopped playing and looked around. Oba, he asked in awe. What have you done? The wind rushed past him again, lifting the white cloth and revealing the drum's carvings glowing faintly in the moonlight. The patterns seemed alive, moving like waves. He took a deep breath and whispered, then let it be. Let the drum speak. Let the spirits decide. From that night, strange things began to happen in Arowa. The villagers started hearing the drum in their dreams, soft beats echoing like heartbeats. Some said they saw a small girl dancing in the moonlight by the river, her blue cloth glowing like the sky. Others claimed they heard laughter in the wind, light and playful. Mama Aduk woke up one night to the sound of footsteps outside her hut. When she looked out, no one was there. But in the dust, she saw small footprints, the same size as her daughter's. She ran to Baba Olojo's hut, her voice shaking. Baba, she is calling. He nodded. Yes, I know. The drum is lonely no more. The next evening, Baba Olojo went to the big iroko tree. He brought Oba with him and sat before the mound. Little dancer, he said softly, if you can hear me, follow the rhythm. Then he began to play. Slowly. Gently. Like a lullaby for the earth. Dum, dum, dum. The ground beneath him quivered. A small crack appeared near the root of the tree. The wind rose, circling the old man and his drum. Baba Olojo's eyes filled with tears. Come home, child, he whispered. The village misses your dance. The drum answered him with its own beat, louder, stronger, dum. 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 The forest echoed. The river shimmered. The leaves of the iroko tree shook, and for a heartbeat, Baba Olojo swore he heard her voice, faint, soft, but real. Baba. I hear you. He dropped his sticks, his hands trembling. She lives, he whispered. She lives. But when he looked again, the sound faded. The forest returned to silence, and the wind slowed to a whisper. He fell to his knees, touching the ground. You heard her, he said to the drum. She is still beneath us, listening. And so, Baba Olojo made a promise that night. He said, every evening, until my breath leaves me, I will play for her. I will not let the drum forget her name. From that day on, the sound of Oba filled the nights once more, slow and steady, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. And far beneath the soil, in the quiet darkness, Ireti's own heart began to beat again. Dum, dum, dum. The moon rose over Arowa, round and bright like a calabash filled with milk. The air was still, yet something deep beneath the soil was moving, soft as breath, steady as a heartbeat. Dum, dum, dum. Down below, where darkness slept, Ireti's fingers twitched again. Her eyelids fluttered though her eyes were sealed by earth. She could not see the moon, but she could hear the drum, the voice of Baba Olojo, calling her name through the ground. Baba, she whispered weakly, her voice like a leaf trembling in the wind. Her mind was slow to wake, heavy with the weight of silence. She remembered dancing, she remembered laughter, and then she remembered the darkness closing around her. But now, there was sound, warm, familiar sound, wrapping around her like her mother's arms. Dum, dum, dum. She turned her head slightly, and as she did, a small crack of light formed above her. The earth, which had held her tightly for so long, began to loosen its grip. Far above her, Baba Olojo sat before the great iroko tree. His eyes were closed, his fingers moving gently over the drum's skin. Mama Aduk sat beside him, her hands clasped, her lips whispering prayers. The villagers had gathered too, drawn by the strange hum in the air. "Why do you play, Baba?" one man asked. "It is late." He did not answer. He simply kept playing, soft, steady, endless. The sound carried through the roots, through the stones, through the river's heart. It reached the place where Ireti lay, touching her like the breath of dawn. And then, she moved. Her hands pushed against the soil. Her body trembled. She gasped, the first real breath she had taken since that terrible day. Above, the leaves of the iroko tree shook as if in greeting. The villagers stepped back, frightened. One woman cried, "The ground. It's moving." The earth beneath the tree began to shift, small clumps of soil rolling down the mound. Baba Olojo stopped drumming. His voice was low, trembling. "She is coming." He placed his palm on the drum. "Oba," he said softly, "she hears you. Do not stop now." And the drum, though no one touched it, continued to play. Dum, dum, dum. The villagers watched in awe as the mound began to open. A soft glow escaped from the crack, golden and warm. Then, from within, a small hand emerged, pale and trembling. Mama Aduk screamed, then fell to her knees. "My child," she cried. "My Ireti." Baba Olojo dropped his drumsticks and rushed forward. "Careful," he whispered. "The spirits are near." They watched as Ireti slowly pulled herself up through the soil. Her hair was covered in dust, her eyes blinking at the light. She coughed weakly and looked around, confused, afraid, alive. "Baba," she whispered again. The old man's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, child," he said, falling to his knees beside her. "The drum called you home." Mama Aduk wrapped her arms around her daughter, sobbing into her shoulder. "I thought I lost you forever." Ireti smiled faintly. "I heard the music, Mama. It told me to wake up." The villagers were silent, staring in disbelief. One by one, they knelt on the ground, bowing their heads. "It is a miracle," someone whispered. "She has returned." Baba Olojo lifted his drum and held it close. "It was never just music," he said softly. "The drum is the heartbeat of the earth. When it calls, even the spirits must listen." That night, the people of Arowa made a great fire by the river. They sang, they danced, they gave thanks to the ancestors. Ireti, weak but smiling, sat beside her mother, watching the flames rise. Baba Olojo played once more, his hands gentle, his heart full. The sound was no longer sad, it was joyful, alive. And as the rhythm filled the air, the stars above seemed to dance too, as though the whole sky was listening to the drum that brought a child back from the grave. From that day, whenever thunder rolled or drums echoed in the distance, the people of Arowa would tell the story of Ireti, the girl who was buried alive, but rose again when the drum beat called her name. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. There are many more stories waiting, tales of courage, mystery, and the magic that lives in our African soil. So, my dear listeners, before you go, tap that subscribe button, click on the bell, and join our family of story lovers. Every week, the drums will beat again, and another story will rise from the firelight just for you. Until then, remember, the heart that listens to stories never grows old. I am your storyteller, and I'll see you in the next tale. Drum fades softly, dum, dum, dum.